Hi, everybody, and welcome back to my podcast. It has been a few weeks since I've been on the air. I'm living in Kelowna, where we've had a major fire. There's been a lot of upheaval as a result of that. It's affected all of us, whether it's people who've been evacuated from their homes, sadly, some who've lost their homes, and all of us fighting for clean air. It's been a real struggle, and that's actually something I want to address with you today. So, we know that there's things we can do personally for ourselves to help our well-being. What do we do when our environment itself is making us sick? We live on a changing planet. We're dealing with extreme weather conditions, fires, floods, storms, all kinds of events that are affecting all of us. So what do we do? And I'm going to be very frank about this. We have to prepare for those sorts of situations. I have family in Ontario that have told me they've been dealing with either extreme weather events or warnings all summer long. We've seen fires in Ontario and Quebec. We've seen fires up north. We've not just been through a major fire here. This fire in Kelowna, which is over 13,000 hectares in size, will probably burn right into the winter. Once these fires go underground, they're there for a long time. So what do you do when you're living in an environment that is poisoning you? Forest fires, wildfire itself, is extremely damaging to human health. When the fires were happening a few years ago, and we also had the heat dome, that's when my sarcoidosis flared up. And what I've learned about this disease is it has a genetic factor. It's usually brought on through environmental stress. And I had friends who offered me a place to stay with better air. At the time, I thought, this will only take a few days. I can soldier through and get out the other side. I was wrong. I ended up with sarcoidosis instead. And it is a disease that's rare, but firefighters are 11 times more likely to get it than the average person. And I'm no firefighter. I got it because I had those stressors that brought it on, and I probably had genetic factors to boot. So with the weather that we've had here, with the wildfire smoke, it's really been impressed upon us the importance of protecting ourselves in those situations. What a lot of people don't realize with wildfire smoke is it can be responsible for all kinds of problems, not just respiratory, but some particles can enter the nose and cross the blood-brain barrier and inflame the brain. There's a 2018 study done of air pollution in Mexico, and when you're getting wildfire smoke, you're not just getting it from the trees, you're getting it from anything else that's caught fire, cars, furniture. There's all kinds of toxins in the fire that's coming into your lungs. So that 2018 study found markers for Parkinson's disease and Alzheimer's in adults, seniors, and children who'd been living in that pollution on an ongoing basis. PTSD symptoms are also an aspect. Depression, anxiety, cognitive issues, all because of breathing in wildfire smoke. And since this is happening not only across Canada, but in various parts of the world, I thought I would give a little bit of education in that area today. A lot of us are using the 0 to 10 scale, or the 1 to 10 scale on Environment Canada to determine air quality. There is a more thorough universal scale. I'm going to put up some shots of it. There is an app called Air Visual, or IQ Air, and to me, it's just a really necessary app if you're dealing with any kind of air pollution. People buy devices that measure the air quality where they live, and that information goes into the app so that anywhere in the world, you can see what your air quality is like. You can look at it on a map, you can look at it just for your community, and you'll get a recommendation as to what you need to do to protect yourself. Now, my respirologist was very strict about this. He said, if you leave your home and there's smoke, you wear a mask. You wear an N95. So he was clear that if I'm inhaling wildfire smoke, there's a good chance it'll flare up my sarcoidosis. I have to be super careful. But So do asthmatics. For anybody inhaling wildfire smoke, really everybody should be wearing a mask. If you hit the yellow zone, it's a good idea to wear a mask. Red zone for sure. The zones in this app go from 0 to 500, 301 to 500 being toxic, like put on a hazmat, basically. The air quality in Kelowna during the worst of the fire hit 900. We had the worst air quality on the planet. But in your own community, you might have poor air quality, and because you're not checking it, you're not really aware. And you're not aware of the insidious effect it can have over time. So it's my recommendation that you have a box of N95s. You can get them at your hardware store. Look for medical grade. If you have any kind of lung condition, or there's a possibility that you're living in an area where there's a lot of these fires, get a respirator. Get one with the OV designation for organic vapors. Have these things on hand, because if there's a big fire, it might be harder to acquire them and you might have a strong need. If you use puffers, inhalers, make sure that you have something current and you have it on hand as well. During the major part of the fires here, the pharmacies were doling out only one to each customer because there was the concern that our major highways that bring supplies into the community could be cut off by fire and there would be no way of bringing anything in. And that includes by air. The airports were closed down because of the fire, because the smoke was too bad for people to be navigating through. And we needed to allow for just emergency crews who could get through to do so. But there were points where nobody could fly. The conditions were just too bad. So, you want to keep in mind that we are living in a changing environment. Start thinking in terms of how you protect your body from that environment. Get yourself a really good air purifier in your home. Another thing I would say, depending on where you live, and if you have a basement especially, get your home checked for radon. Radon gas over time can do a lot of damage. I know of people who've gotten lung cancer who never smoked a day in their life, but they had radon. And it's not a difficult thing to get a little radon sensor, put it in your home for several months, and send it in and find out what the air quality is. Because there are steps you can then take to make your home a safer place to be. So protect the air you're breathing and realize that we're going to have to do our best to adapt, especially because you never know if you have a hereditary factor that could be triggered by your environment. So think about the things that can keep your home safe. Think about the furnishings, the rugs. Some things off gas and are not healthy for you. So same with the kind of paints that you use. Paints are a lot more regulated than they used to be, but look at the kind of materials that are in your home. Do you have an old rug that's sitting there with a lot of pollutants in it? Or is the material it made from something you really shouldn't be breathing? Yes, one can go to extremes with this, but if you consider that over a lifetime, you are breathing in the materials around you, and they are having an effect, not just on your lungs, but on other organs in your body, including your brain. So for us to live long and healthy lives, we need to recognize that we don't live in the same environment that our forefathers lived in. Now, yes, I know they had their own forms of pollution and their own toxic environments, but as a planet, it's changing, and we need to be smart and do our best to live in it in a way that helps us to survive, and maybe survive long enough to make it a better planet and make it better for our children and grandchildren. So I'm going to put some links in the description that'll give you some information about that study I mentioned, the app, the air purifiers, and I am not in any way getting any kind of affiliation benefit from this. I'm just sharing with you what's working for us, and I hope it will help you too. Thanks very much. I look forward to seeing you next week.